Thank you, Sophie. You're watching South East Today. Our top story tonight, rationing drugs. Teenagers having to hold back ADHD medication for their crucial exam period.
I would be terrified. I genuinely don't know how I would be able to get through my GCSEs, especially achieve the grades I wanted to, or even I don't know if I would be able to finish the exam.
A police apology over failings does not go far enough, says the uncle of murdered schoolgirl Nicola Fellows.
It all falls back to that one word, the truth. The truth that we've never, ever been given.
Tourism tax. Could Thanet be the latest place to adopt the levy on hotel rooms? We're live in Broadstairs tonight with reaction.
The Angels chords down.
And hitmaker Guy Chambers joins us to chat about his long friendship with Robbie Williams, life in rural Sussex and going back to his band roots. Hello, welcome to the programme. I'm Ellie Crisell. We begin tonight with students taking drastic action as they approach their big exam season with worries they may run out of essential medication. As pupils with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder prepare for GCSEs and A-levels, we can reveal that a national shortage of the medication is creating difficulties for those who need them to focus. Families warn they're having to ration the tablets which they're relying on to see them through crucial exams. This from our investigations reporter, Ben Moore.
It's just really hard to actually just kind of get your brain to be quiet. And it's like 20 different things are going on at once.
Imagine all this going on in your head when you're trying to revise for exams that could shape the rest of your life. For Alice and her ADHD, medication makes a huge difference.
It allows me to just sit down and it allows me to get my work done, which I couldn't do before because I'm not constantly getting distracted and I'm not constantly thinking about other things. I can solely focus on that one thing.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I've got 16 left, so just over 2 weeks, which will get me...
Won't get you to the start of your exams?
No, it won't.
If you can't get them because of the shortage, what happens?
I would be terrified. I genuinely don't know how I would be able to get through my GCSEs, especially achieve the grades I wanted to, or even I don't know if I would be able to finish the exam.
Yeah, you can make the cup of tea.
As with most issues around teenagers' stress and worry, it's parents on the front line.
Although it would be lovely right now to say I could go and get 3 months' supply and that would take us to the end of GCSEs. That's not permitted.
Most ADHD medications are controlled drugs, categorised as harmful if abused, so they're only prescribed 1 month at a time.
It's like a gamble. I'll go into the pharmacy and they will either say yes, fine, and it'll be great, or they will say sorry, problem.
Is there a possibility that Alice might not have the drugs to do her exams with?
There is that possibility because I can't put the medication on the shelves in the pharmacies.
An ADHD medication shortage hit the UK last September due to an increased demand coinciding with manufacturing issues. The government says it's taken swift action to improve the supply of ADHD medications, and as a result, some issues have been resolved.
We've seen nearly 6 months of education lost, so we are now in damage limitation.
But some charities are not so charitable about the government's handling of the issue.
They've been one step above breathtakingly useless throughout this entire thing. We've spoken to teachers who don't know what to do about children struggling without medication. We've spoken to parents. We've actually spoken to an exam board. The work hasn't been done to know what really makes a difference. And now when that understanding and support is most needed, it's just not there.
ADHD is a neurological condition. You're born with it, and it can affect things like focus, knowledge retention and memory, all the things that teenagers need when they're sitting their exams.
Before I was diagnosed and medicated, it really did put me behind, and I was never doing well and always being told off, and I just didn't know why.
16-year-old Rory from West Sussex has been taking medication his whole secondary school career, but as exams loom, his parents are eking it out.
We're having to kind of ration out his medication, and every day we ask, do you need it today? Have you got a lesson that you can manage without?
Which just means he'll achieve less, he won't revise as well, he won't do as well at school on that day, but we're having to sort of make sure we keep some back.
Can you notice the difference?
It's not ideal because there are times where it's still not enough to keep me focused, but it's infinitely better than having no medication.
I'm a secondary school teacher. I have ADHD. I was diagnosed at 52.
Emma knows all too well the issues her neurodivergent pupils are dealing with. In line with national policy, they can request 25% extra time on their exams, but she thinks more help could be available.
Children could be asked what would help them, what would support them. For some ADHDers who get very distracted, feel very anxious in the context of a sports hall, maybe they don't have to take them in a sports hall. Why can't they just take them in a small classroom, which they're used to being in?
The clock is ticking as tens of thousands of students with ADHD will hope to fulfil their potential in exams in the coming weeks.
Every second counts at this point, and I don't want to be wasting revision days doing nothing because I can't concentrate because I have no medication.
Ben Moore, BBC South East Today.
Well, let's talk now to our health correspondent, Mark Norman, about this. Mark, there has been some advice released, hasn't there, for schools and for pupils who are in this position?
Yeah, very recently. This is from the Royal College of Psychiatrists, and they rightly point out, as you said at the beginning, students rely on their medication. There are no substitutes to be taken here. Students far more likely to be inattentive, act impulsively, struggle at school, and not the best situation if you're trying to revise and actually sit exams, of course. The advice is around, we heard a little bit of it in Ben's piece there, perhaps sit in different places, so schools could get students to sit in different rooms perhaps to take exams and revise, break their tasks into chunks, increase physical activity. And there's also a lot of apps out there, a lot of advice for youngsters around the same sort of thing. Organise yourself properly, block out distraction, sleep properly, exercise properly. This shortage of drugs isn't going to go away quickly, so you need to think about that during this exam season.
Mark, thank you. A formal apology from the Chief Constable of Sussex given to the families of two Brighton schoolgirls who were murdered in one of the county's most notorious crimes does not go far enough, according to the uncle of one of the victims. Yesterday, the families released a statement in response to the police apology, but today Nigel Heffron, whose niece Nicola Fellows was killed by Russell Bishop in 1986, along with her friend Karen Hadaway, urged the police to reveal to him in full detail the failures in their initial investigations that led to her killer walking free and only being brought to justice decades later. Piers Hopkirk explains.
The murders of Nicola Fellows and Karen Hadaway sent shockwaves through the community in Brighton and beyond. And nearly 4 decades on, and the impact of that crime continues to this day. In an extraordinary move, Sussex's Chief Constable issued a formal apology to the victims' families yesterday for the failures in the initial murder investigation. The girl's killer, Russell Bishop, evaded justice for years.
On behalf of Sussex Police, I have met in person with both families to formally and personally apologise for those failings in the initial investigation.
But today, Nicola's uncle said that apology did not go far enough. He's calling on the police to lay bare the full report into exactly what went wrong.
It all falls back to that one word, the truth. The truth that we've never ever been given. And I think it's about time the police and the Crown Prosecution Service manned up and told us the truth.
The girls were killed as they played in Wild Park in Brighton in 1986. Russell Bishop was found not guilty following an initial trial a year later. Only after changes to double jeopardy laws and advances in forensic technology was he eventually brought to justice in 2018, more than 30 years later. An independent review into the original investigation found a number of failings. Nigel Heffron says he wants to see it and be reassured that lessons will be learned.
Tell us. Don't keep it going. We're 34 years, 36 years down the line. How much further down the line have we got to go before the truth really comes out? That's what we've got to need, the truth at the end of the day. You're manning up at the moment to apologise. Now go that extra mile. Go that extra mile and tell us the truth. Tell us what that report says.
Sussex Police says it will own and learn from the mistakes of the past. Nigel Heffron says no other family should face the pain they've suffered in their pursuit of justice. Piers Hopkirk, BBC South East Today, Brighton.
A driver who reached speeds of 80 miles an hour in a 30 zone in Burgess Hill has been jailed for 10 months. 42-year-old Paul Rudkin found to have cocaine in his system. He failed to stop for police and attempted to overtake other cars before losing control of his vehicle. The boss of the Port of Dover says he's confident traffic won't come to a standstill when the European Union's new digital border system begins in October. It will require fingerprints and facial scans to be taken from travellers, replacing the manual stamping of passports. There have been fears of long delays, but the port's chief executive says it shouldn't come to that.
It just so happens with Dover's unique structure with having juxtaposed immigration that it's going to bite here in Dover. But that's also why we've been working really closely with our government, the EU authorities, the French authorities, to make certain that we've got the plans and the regimes in place for us to be able to handle it here.
Next to the concerns over a possible tourism tax being considered for Thanet seaside towns. The idea, already adopted by Manchester and a number of major European cities, typically sees hotel guests pay a charge, with the amount depending on the length of stay. The money raised is then ploughed back into measures aimed at boosting tourism. James Lewer has this report.
It's already been implemented in some of the biggest cities across Europe and at home. Now a so-called tourism tax could be coming to Thanet. The District Council is currently looking at ways to bring in more cash to spend on the area from visitors coming to places like here in Margate. At the Walpole Bay Hotel, its owner says charging the tax to her customers would be another thing for them to manage, and she refers other ways the council are looking to raise money.
We do need some sort of income to come through, but the levy on second homes I agree with, but the discretionary levy on businesses I don't, because I think we actually do enough already.
Thanet has the largest number of tourism businesses in Kent, with around 680 in all. 4 million people also visit every year, and over 330,000 people also book overnight stays. We asked people in Margate what they think about potentially digging a bit deeper into their pockets.
I think that's a great idea, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, if it was a small amount, I think it would be, a percentage that she's added in. People would pay it quite happily, I think. Yeah.
I don't think adding a little bit towards what you're paying as a tourist will make such a difference to them, but it will make a huge amount to Margate.
I am a tourist, and I'd be prepared to pay a little bit more to make sure that all the facilities were here to allow people to enjoy what's going on in Margate.
Down the coast in Broadstairs, Alistair runs a holiday letting company. He thinks taxing tourists isn't the answer, and the idea needs a rethink.
For us as a business, tourism tax would be deadly. It's still something for a business to administer, whereas if it was administered in a different way with a licence, each property has to have a licence, they can also control the housing issue we have locally, with properties being rejected licences and not being able to trade as a short-term holiday let because it is a saturated market at the moment.
Wherever you travel across Thanet, everyone has a view on how money should be spent in the area. But those coming further afield might be the ones fronting more of the cost in the future.
Well, James is live in Broadstairs for us this evening. Hello, James. Take us through some of those different ideas the council has had to raise this money.
Yes, well, there's lots of ideas that are on the table at the moment from Thanet District Council about how they can raise this so-called tourist tax. One of the ideas that's on the table at the moment is increasing council tax on people with second homes, which actually appear to be quite popular amongst some of the business owners I spoke to today. This whole idea of obviously adding a little bit more to what people pay when they're in hotels, overnight costs, is something that we see in countries abroad, like in Barcelona and Rome, but also is something that they trialled in Manchester. But for those business owners that I spoke to today, they seem to think that actually that could be more of an issue for them because they have to pay for the costs and the administration. But at this stage, it's still quite early in terms of what they're trying to do with the proposals. But at the moment, it looks like tourists could be paying a bit more.
James, thank you. The local council elections are taking place in 2 weeks' time, with seats across Kent, Sussex and Surrey being contested. With a general election expected in the second half of this year, the local vote is being seen as a crucial test for the government. Before voters go to the polls, our political editor Charlotte Wright has been looking at what's at stake.
This May, something is coming. It's the last major electoral test before the next general election, and residents will be voting for councillors in these parts of the southeast. Of course, they're in charge of things like housing, leisure facilities and bin collections. So what will happen? Well, we can't predict that, but keep an eye on these seats, which are on a knife edge. Tunbridge Wells, where the Lib Dems are the largest party but don't have enough councillors for a majority, so at the moment run it as a coalition with other groups. Hastings has already seen a leadership change in recent months after a number of Labour members quit the party to become independent and formed a new administration with the Greens. And Ada, where the Conservatives have been in charge for 20 years but only have a 2-seat majority. And the political landscape has changed a lot since many of these seats were last voted on.
If we think back to when these elections were held in 2021, it was at the peak of Conservative dominance. Keir Starmer nearly had to resign. He'd just lost the Hartlepool by-election, and the front pages after these elections were Boris Johnson is eyeing power for a decade.
There are some crucial procedural differences this year too. Usually in Maidstone, Tunbridge Wells and Tandridge, only a third of councillors are elected at any one time. Next month, in these areas, all seats are up for grabs.
This means that every vacancy in the borough and every councillor vacancy is now up for election at one point in the calendar only and for a period of 4 years. So that's quite a dramatic transformation. You're really pressing the reset button.
And it's not just local council elections this year. All voters in Kent, Sussex and Surrey will have the opportunity to pick their local politician who oversees the police. It's all happening on Thursday, the 2nd of May, and we'll be keeping a keen eye on the results on Friday, because this is the last time that many voters will go to the polls ahead of the next general election, and the outcome could give us a real clue about attitudes towards the main political parties. If you are voting, don't forget to take approved photo ID. The rules on that changed last year. You can find out more and get links to a full list of candidates on the BBC website.
It's almost 10 to 7, a reminder of our top story tonight. Students are taking drastic action over ADHD medication over ongoing shortages, with some even skipping doses to try to ration them during the crucial upcoming exam period. Also in tonight's programme, the man behind the hits, Guy Chambers, chats to us about collaborating with Robbie Williams and resurrecting his own band, the Lemon Trees.
And some showers and a cool breeze as we head towards the weekend, but plenty of dry weather too. A full forecast later in the programme.
Women's domestic cricket will undergo a multi-million-pound shake-up from next season, with defending team champions, the Southern Vipers, being rebranded, and this season will be their last. A highly successful regional team. The Vipers completed a domestic double last year, winning the Rachel Hayhoe Flint Trophy and the Charlotte Edwards Cup. Charlotte Edwards actually being the former England and Kent star who now coaches the team. The new season begins at an interesting time for the sport, with the current system of 8 independent regional teams moving back to a county model next year. Our sports reporter Lewis Coombs explains.
They're the most successful franchise in the women's domestic game. But this will be the last season of the Southern Vipers as we know it.
It's come at a good time. I think regional cricket has been brilliant in terms of raising the bar and raising the standard of women's domestic cricket in the country. And I think now the right thing to do is obviously grow the game from a commercial scale. We want, and we've seen from the 100, they marketed that tournament so well. It's fun and it's exciting and kids want to come, they want to watch, and they've got role models. So hopefully we can replicate that.
Next year, the team will become affiliated to just Hampshire County Cricket Club, as 8 women's teams form a new Tier 1 league structure.
We're very happy that we've been given that responsibility of taking the professional game forward. I really hope we keep a legacy here of the Vipers, because it's played a massive part in the last 8 years of this club. And we're really passionate about keeping that brand alive and hopefully the success as well.
Surrey are also one of the 8, but Sussex have missed out, along with the likes of Yorkshire, Middlesex and Kent, with the decision said to be based on facilities, prioritisation and long-term vision.
They got a lot of things right in the very early days when other clubs weren't that interested in women's cricket. They were there and they were providing a lot of support for women's cricket. So it is tough to take for those counties, and obviously as the Sussex captain, you know, I do feel for them.
Have they gone far enough, the ECB?
We've come a long way in a short amount of time, and I think that's the important thing. And you know, to think that in the next few years you'll be having 15 professional cricketers at this club, where 3 years ago it was 5. I think we're making huge steps. They're investing lots of money and doing a great job, and I think, you know, the future looks incredibly bright for women's cricket.
The intention is to add 2 more sides in 2027 and grow further 2 years later. But for now at least, the Vipers' attention is on this season, which starts this weekend, and defending the Rachel Hayhoe-Flint Trophy and Charlotte Edwards Cup.
We'd love to go out with a bang and finish the way we started, really. So hopefully we can have another good season ahead and lift 2 trophies.
Lewis Coombs, BBC South East Today.
Now, he's the Sussex songwriter behind Robbie Williams' biggest hits, and he's worked with a string of other massive artists, including James Blunt, Kylie Minogue and Tom Jones. Now, Guy Chambers is going back to his musical roots for his latest release, to the early 90s. And his first band, the Lemon Trees, a new album, features a reworking of their songs 30 years after their original composition. We'll speak to him in a moment, but first let's remind ourselves of his songwriting talents.
Do they know the places where we go when we're gray and old? So now, child of love, it's time for you to know the truth about us. You've become a flesh and blood, closer than a friend could ever be. Trust me now, you must be brave.
Hello, Guy Chambers. Thank you so much for coming in. So you were the creative force behind all of those amazing hits, but you have your own thing going on as well, don't you? Your own band.
I do.
Tell us about your upcoming show.
Yeah, we're playing Amazing Grace in London on May the 13th, and it's with my band, the Lemon Trees, which was an old band from the 90s, which I've reformed after 30 years.
And how does that feel after 30 years, bringing the old band back together?
It's fun to acknowledge your younger self. There's songs from I wrote 30 years ago, but I still think the songs are valid, and I think they could be helpful for people.
So, Guy, you live in a beautiful part of Sussex, near Lewes. Obviously, you've toured all over the world. What's it like to come home?
I love living in Sussex. I love being near the sea. I make miles from the sea. I swim in tide mills quite regularly. I love being near Glyndebourne, and I love being near Lewes. I love the whole. I love the downs and walks and everything about it, really.
Do you find it inspirational, that part of the world?
I do. Every day I look out my window. I thank God for that view. I love it.
And how is it moving between those two different sides of the music industry, writing for other people like Robbie Williams, and then performing your own stuff? Which do you prefer, a particular route, or?
I like doing all sorts of different things. You know, I'm very open to any kind of collaboration. But I do really love performing to an audience, and I like that interaction a lot. Yeah.
And tell us about your long-standing collaboration with Robbie Williams. You spent many years together, creating together. What was that like?
What was it like? Well, it had its ups and downs.
Like any creative partnership.
But I would say more ups than downs. He's tremendous fun. He's very driven, and we had a lot of, what was great about working with Robbie Williams is that the record company didn't really have any say about the music, so we could do whatever we wanted. We had tremendous creative freedom.
That's a nice place to be in. And would you be open to resurrecting that if the opportunity presented itself?
Oh yeah, no, we're still friends. I'm just not actively working together today, but I'm sure there will be a time soon when we might do something together.
And I'm sure he'll wish you all the very best of luck for your
I'm sure he would.
On the 13th of May, and best of luck from us. I hope it goes really well.
Thank you.
Guy Chambers, thank you so much for talking to us. Time now for a look at the weather. John Hammond is with us. Hello, John. Well, spring is trying, but oh gosh, those are very ominous looking clouds behind you, John.
Yep, here we go again. I wish I could say let me entertain you with some warm and sunny weather, but that ain't the case as we head towards the weekend. It was beautiful earlier on, wasn't it? In the morning there was lots of blue sky and sunshine. It has tended to cloud over, making the sunshine hazy this afternoon. That cloud is now thickening, heralding some more showers. Not torrential, persistent rain, but showers nonetheless. A chilly breeze picking up again. That breeze will be with us through the weekend, but on a positive note, there will still be a lot of dry weather, albeit not particularly warm weather through this weekend. Here comes the rain coming down from the north. It's been an awful day across northern England, cold and wet. Some of that rain is going to reach us as we head through the evening and night. It will be quite showery in nature, not a deluge as I say, but not very pleasant, and the breeze will be picking up. So first thing in the morning it will feel quite chilly, I think. Temperatures around 7, 8 or 9 degrees with some dampness around. Now the cloud will break up to some extent as we go through the morning, so you'll see some glimpses of sunshine, but not the clear blue skies which many of us enjoyed earlier on today. And further showers will develop on that breeze as we head into the afternoon. Something could be quite heavy. Temperatures 12, 13, maybe 14 degrees down towards the south coast, but that is below par again for the time of year. The chill accentuated by that breeze, which will continue as we head into the weekend. A lot of dry weather, as I say, but clouds spreading in from the north or the northeast could deliver the odd shower on Saturday. I think there's a greater chance of 1 or 2 showers developing on Sunday. All the while, that breeze keeping those temperatures well down, as I say. Where should we be at this time of year? 15, maybe 16 degrees. No sign of that in the near future. We're in the blue and we stay in the blue for several days to come. Warmer and sunnier weather lies just to the west of us, but it's not going to reach us in the near future. That nagging northeasterly breeze stays with us well into next week. I can feel my popularity plummeting. Back to you, Ellie.
Oh, we want to be in the yellow, not the blue, John.
I know,
dear,
I know,
oh dear.
I know.
Okay, thank you. And before we go, some fantastic news for our investigations team, which has won a prestigious award. Ben Moore and Alex Bish's report looked at how underground street racing, often arranged over social media and messaging platforms, is fueling safety fears across the region. They won the News Report Award in the Pre-Circom Awards, which had entries from right across Europe. Well done to them. That's it from me. Bye-bye for now.